Wreck-It Ralph.
I'm gonna wreck it!
30 years I've been doing this.
I can fix it!
It's hard to love your job when no one else seems to like you for doing it.
You're just the bad guy who wrecks the building.
I'm okay.
If I'm really honest with myself, it sure must be nice being the good guy.
Ralph, you are a bad guy, but this does not mean you're a bad guy.
I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
Ralph, abandon his game.
Welcome to Game Central Station.
Bad guy coming.
Everything changes now.
Where's Ralph?
Sorry, Cubert.
It's me, Ralph.
Ralph's gone to hero's duty?
Fear is a four-letter word, ladies. You want to go pee-pee in your big boy slacks? Keep it to yourself.
Hi, mister. You're not from here, are you?
Sugar Rush, you're game jumping? Hey!
Aha! You wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, would you? You hit a guy with glasses. That's well played.
Without Ralph, we're doomed.
They're gonna pull our plug.
What's that?
A medal. I earned it in Hero's Duty. Not that kind of duty.
I bet you really gotta watch where you step in a game called Hero's Duty.
Some nights I stay up, cashing in my bag.
We can't change who we are.
You can't mess with the program, Ralph.
Some nights I read.
Everyone here says I'm just a mistake.
You ready for this?
What do I stand for?
I'm not leaving you here alone.
Well, let's close out with the bad guy affirmation. I am bad. And that's good. I will never be good. No. And that's not bad.
Hold that thought.
There's no one I'd rather be than me.
Why do I fix everything I touch?
It's make your mama's proud time.
I love my mama! Oh, good. The cops. Hold still. No!
Take that.
What are you doing? One game at a time, Ralph.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the three films that make up November 2nd, 2012. And we're starting off with the biggest new release, Disney's latest animated feature film, and that is Wreck-It Ralph. An original concept with a lot of similarities and inspiration taken from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which we'll touch on in just a little bit here. The story of this is that you have the titular arcade game villain, Ralph, played by John C. Reilly, who rebels against his role and dreams of becoming a hero. He travels between games in the arcade and ultimately must eliminate a dire threat that could affect the entire arcade, and one that Ralph may have inadvertently started. And from the premise alone, this movie was already on my hype list, just from the unique premise overall, and the fact that you were getting all these video game cameos in here, which they kind of spoiled in the trailer, because a lot of the big ones are in there, and there's no real big surprises outside of the trailer in particular. I mean, you see Cubert in there, you see Sonic, you see Bowser, and you also see Dr. Robotnik, you see Zangief from Street Fighter. I mean, there's no real big surprises once you actually get to the actual film. That kind of hurt the movie a little bit in the marketing campaign, but not the movie itself, because the movie is absolutely amazing. I mean, you know, this and Hotel Transylvania has really saved a very lackluster year for animated movies in general. Now, with that said, there are some flaws to it overall, and they don't really destroy my feeling towards the film, but they do kind of feel like they were pushed in there a little bit there. For one thing, the premise is basically the main character's traveling to a series of different video game worlds, but in actuality, he only goes to like 3 different worlds. Pac-Man, Hero's Duty, and Sugar Rush. I mean, that's it. I mean, I thought it would have been more interesting if we'd gotten to some of the more prolific video games out there. I mean, you got Sonic the Hedgehog, you got Super Mario in here, Street Fighter, House of the Dead. You know, why not explore all the worlds here? I mean, why not just do that? But then again, maybe I thought they were going to do that in the sequel, and then they took a different approach to that, but sequel, they didn't really live up to that promise that they had there, but the sequel had some good things about it. We'll talk about that when we get to 2018, but the other thing I really didn't like is how they kind of teased the villain in this, because if you watch the movie, you get a night, and they start talking about how, there's a whole thing about this where, you go to a different video game, and everyone's just like, you're not going turbo, are you? And what they're talking about is the character of Turbo, who's a character from an old game who is notorious for having jealously sabotaged a newer, more popular game, causing both of those games to be unplugged permanently. And if you listen closely, you could hear King Candy's voice in the character of Turbo it's the same voice actor, Alan Tudyk, who does that voice. And, towards the climax, they're expecting you to be, like, shocked when this is like that. This is supposed to be like the Judge Doom moment in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where you're shocked to find out that he's actually a Toon, but not just any Toon, the Toon that killed Eddie's brother. And really, if you watch the movie over and over again, you really can't help but pick up on that stuff early on. I mean, there's no real surprise in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, even though Judge Doom, when you find out he's the one that killed Eddie's brother, I mean, as a kid, yeah, that's terrifying, but in this movie, it's trying to be like that, and when I saw it the first time, I was just kind of like, wow, what a shocker, and a sarcastic tone, because I already kind of knew what they were going to do with that premise all along here. And yeah, I would have liked a better villain reveal than the one they gave us here, but I'll give him credit, though. When he turns into the creature from the Hero's Duty game, that was a good twist I didn't see coming. That was actually pretty intimidating overall, so I'll give it that. Those are the only real main flaws I have with the movie. I thought everything else about it was actually really damn good. The animation overall is very well done. They do an incredible job of both blending the 3D computer animation with the older and newer video game graphics overall. It's very seamless when you really look at it here. The voice casting overall is top notch. John C. Reilly's great as Ralph. I'm glad to see that he has a lot of really good. He's a really good comedic actor. This is a guy that started his career as a dramatic actor, but with this and Dewey Cox and Walk Hard, I mean, he's proven that he's got a good comedy repertoire to him. Sarah Silverman's also really good as Vanellope. I thought she was a ton of fun. Jack McBrayer has a lot of fun moments with Fix-It Felix. Jane Lynch as Agent Calhoun. I love the relationship that Felix and Calhoun have in the movie. Her backstory of how her life fell apart at the altar was the first time was it's tragic, but it's also one of the funniest things in the movie. And Alan Tudyk is a good actor. I like the fact that he's kind of the John Ratzenberger of these movies. Like, he shows up in all these different Disney animated movies as various voices overall, and I think that's pretty interesting overall. The story works very well, and I like the fact that this came from Rich Moore, the director who's known for his work on The Simpsons and Futurama, and also Jim Reardon, one of the writers on The Simpsons, was also one of the writers on this movie. And probably the most interesting thing about this movie is that this is more of a Pixar film than what Disney usually does, which is ironic, because Brave feels more like the Disney princess movie than a Pixar film than Wreck-It Ralph does. Wreck-It Ralph feels more like a Pixar movie than a Disney film does, and it's Brave that wins all the Oscars for Best Animated Feature, and it's just like, come on, man. Wreck-It Ralph is the far superior film. I mean, this was a welcome relief in a slump of very mediocre animated films released this year. This is right up there with Hotel Transylvania. I actually kind of like this a little more than Hotel Transylvania, which really isn't that hard to see why. It's a smartly written film, smartly made, well animated, easily one of the best animated movies of the year, one of the best movies of the year. What more can I say? Wreck-It Ralph is pretty amazing. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Denzel Washington in Flight.
Saving our lives.
You're a hero, man.
Why do we need a lawyer? You had alcohol in your system.
Does Whitaker know he's going to jail?
It's the lie. Someone put me in a broken plane.
You're so normal.
I can't play around with these people.
This thing so heavy it's killed me. You think you'd be alive if I wasn't flying that plane?
Flight rated R in theaters November 2nd.
So in the movie Flight, you have an airline pilot played by Denzel Washington, who's an alcoholic. You see it very much in the beginning that he lives a very, very rough life, even though he seems like he's having the perfect life. I mean, in the beginning, he's literally banging one of the stewardesses, which is actually I can't remember who she is. She's the other girl on My Name Is Earl, not Jamie Presley, but now I can't believe I can't figure out the name. She's Catalina on My Name Is Earl. She's also on The League, Nadine Velasquez, and you see her in full frontal. You see her full frontal naked, and it's just like, you look at that, it's just kind of like, I don't know, man. Denzel Washington's living a pretty good life. I mean, if he just gets rid of the alcohol, I mean, he's a swinger, man. But that's not the point altogether. But he's an airline pilot who saves a flight from crashing, but an investigation into malfunctions reveals something troubling, and that's his past overall. He's got an alcohol problem. He has a lot of problems going on behind the scenes here, and yeah, his works overall have been criticized by a lot of people. Robert Zemeckis, though, I think is still one of the best directors Hollywood has ever had. He has a lot of great movies to his name. You know, of course, the Back to the Future trilogy, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Castaway, Forrest Gump, Death Becomes Her. Just so many good movies. I mean, Romancing the Stone, back in the day, even before Back to the Future put his name on the map. I mean, even the animated films he did with the motion capture work, The Polar Express, Beowulf, Christmas Carol, those are all still really good movies. With all that said, though, after Mars Needs Moms, I think it's great that he's getting back to doing what he does so well with these live-action movies, and I think he made a solid return with this movie in particular. This is definitely one of the year's best movies, and it's a movie that, it's the type of movie I like. It's a movie that makes you think, but doesn't give you the cop-out ending where it's just like, you get to decide the ending because we don't want to give you a conclusion to this. Like, I mean, it's a movie that works because it makes you think and makes you ask yourself the question of what would you do in a situation like this. And for Denzel Washington, he needed this one really, really badly. I mean, he starred in 2 really bad movies back-to-back, Unstoppable and Safe House, and with this, it's great to see him make a great comeback in this. He does a really good job playing the pilot in question. He does a great job playing this guy that you both kind of like and hate at the same time. You like how charismatic he can be, but you also hate the fact that he still drinks very heavily. He still treats people like shit, even the people that are trying to help him out. A cast overall in here is great. You got Don Cheadle and John Goodman, who really elevate the movie to another level, and you know they work really well off of Washington and hold their own overall. One of the issues that I wish they would have figured out in this movie is that how Washington's character could have maneuvered the plane to land it safely. I mean, what if it was because of the fact that the captain was drunk that he was able to land the plane the way he did? I mean, it never brings that up as a possible theory. I mean, maybe they didn't want to do it because they didn't want the message to be like, hey, sometimes you gotta be drunk to be in a situation like this. And, you know, yeah, it's a hard decision to pull off. I get why they didn't do it, but I'm assuming there's a better writer out there that could have pulled it off and make it seem plausible. I would have liked to see that in that movie. I mean, yeah, it would have been something that would have been very, very hard to make without making the argument that drinking alcohol saves your life, like that type of thing. But, I mean, I don't know. That's one of the things that really kind of bugged me ever since then. But despite that, this does have a good conclusion that does end the film and this character's storyline on a reasonable pace that makes sense overall. Like, I mean, he's in a situation where he could get away scot-free with it, but he decides, you know what, my life is shitty as it is, I need help, so I'm willing to go down this to make this difficult decision, and I like the fact that they do that, and it does run at a smooth enough pace where there's no lulls in the storyline, and it does feel like you're in the right situation to do this with this character and this actor overall. This is definitely up there with one of the best movies I've seen this year. I mean, had they explored more into the fact that he was drunk and he was able to land the plane because of that, I probably would have given the movie a better pass overall, but despite that, this is still a great movie overall. Robert Zemeckis' direction is great. Denzel Washington's performance is great. This is basically kind of what would have happened if the movie Hero was fully realized. If you remember Hero, that 90s movie where Dustin Hoffman's playing kind of like the drunken guy who's like, he has no real life settings whatsoever, and then he sees this plane crashing in the river, saves his reporter played by Gina Davis, and nobody knows who this guy was, and they plant a guy in Andy Garcia to be that guy. Imagine that movie, except taken much more seriously and working a whole lot better because you have better people behind the scenes of it. I mean, that's what it kind of reminded me of, sort of. But regardless, this is still a really, really great film. Flight, terrific movie, one of the year's best films, a nice return to form for both Denzel Washington and Robert Zemeckis. So let's go ahead and end the show with our last movie that we have here. The weakest of the 3 films, but not a bad movie by any means necessary. The Man with the Iron Fist.
Kino presents
Warriors! We'll see who's left standing and who's on their knees.
the new legends of Kung Fu.
Some pleasure? Is it business?
Your business. This is pleasure. On November 2nd, make some noise. I always take a gun to knife fight. The Man with the Iron Fist, rated R.
Or seeing as it's Russell Crowe in here, the movie should be called The Man with the Telephone Fist, because we know he can throw one of those and hit somebody hard in real life, but, okay. I've never actually I don't think I've ever made a telephone joke about Russell Crowe before. I keep wanting to say Russell Wilson for some reason, but... Set in 19th century China, the story follows a series of lone warriors who are forced to unite and defeat a common foe and save their home of Jungle Village. You also have the RZA, who is also the director of this movie, Lucy Liu, Dave Bautista, Jamie Chung. But they don't tell you in here that this is co-written by Eli Roth as well. So it's a Quentin Tarantino production, co-written by Eli Roth and directed by one of the guys from Wu-Tang Clan. And it's got Russell Crowe in it. It's a movie that is definitely all over the place, but it's not a bad movie overall. I mean, it's a movie that you could see where they're going with what they're trying to do here. You know that the RZA and the Wu-Tang Clan love these old school martial arts films. I mean, they released some of these movies back in the day when DVD was just starting to come into fruition here. And you know, it's a movie where it has a lot of good ideas overall to it, but the execution and the script overall is really where it kind of falls apart. There's nothing new in the scripting department overall. But the performances overall, I thought, were very well done. I thought they did a pretty good job of handling they had a good indication of what to do with this material that they were working with here. And for a $15 million budgeted movie, it doesn't look that bad. I mean, it actually looks very, very well done for the budget that they had to work with here. I just wish that the story had been a lot more inventive, a lot more creative overall. But other than that, though, it's not a bad movie. It's not even the film I would say is one of the worst things ever. It's an ambitious film, but a film that really doesn't have a whole lot there in terms of, you know, creativity to it. I think a really good script overall was what I'm trying to say, that really could have elevated this to something really great. But for what they accomplished here, I thought it was okay. Didn't think it was anything spectacular or amazing. For a one-time watch, I think it's worth it. But other than that, though, one time's enough, honestly. I have no real intentions on going back and watch this one again, but, yeah, overall, that's my thoughts on The Man with the Iron Fist. So before we begin this episode of Time About the Movies, I have some exciting news to tell you. Check it out, ladies and gentlemen. I have finally gotten up to date on all the Time About the Movies presents for every month that I've been doing this show. So there you go. December 2011 and November 2011 went up today, and that means every month that I have covered ever since we started this show is up and ready to go. So that means I can finally put an end to this as of right now. I know we're still in the depths of 2012 right now, and I'll get to that. The strategy that I'm going to go with here for future videos going forward in terms of these is that I will continue doing these Time About the Movies Presents specials for monthly videos, but I'm going to do it once a month now. So or at least until we get to the end of specific years. Like when we get done with 2012, there'll be a 2012 video probably within mid-November, and then 2013, so probably when we get done with that around late December, early January. I'd have to double check to see where the timing is on this whole thing, but this was a long, arduous process to get all these episodes done, because not only did I have to edit all the episodes together into one video, YouTube was really being a pain in the butt getting these videos updated, mostly because of slow internet and the fact that I was putting up too many videos at one point. I had to stop doing these for a little bit, so that's why there was kind of a little bit of a lull between 2007 and 2008, as I'm just going through this thing here to show you. But hey, in the end, it really came down to it took me a long time to do this, but in the end, it was definitely worth it. And I'll tell you, the last couple of days alone were really a struggle, because yesterday was a really bad day for just uploading videos. I don't know what was going on with my internet and all that, but like I said before, the Time About the Movies video I did for yesterday took 5 hours to upload. It was a 20-minute video, but it took 5 hours to upload, and that was ridiculous. And especially considering that the short I put on this channel and then the other video I did for the other channel didn't take that long to update at all. I mean, that's just what's been going on with the video thing here, video uploading thing here. But as you can see, I have officially done with every month up to date until 2012. And that means I can move on to other projects, too. I've been wanting to do a Time About the Movies Presents special about the Land Before Time sequels and also the American Pie sequels, which hopefully I'll get around to doing some of those this week, but we'll see what happens as the weeks go on here. But as you can see, all the months right here are completely covered, so we are already up to date on that. So a long, arduous process that began at the beginning of the year it was worth it to finally get to that point in time, and I'm just letting this kind of fill out here so you can see how far this thing goes, because yeah, it took me a couple of months to get this going. As you see, 7 months ago, I did the stuff from 93, and we're heading back towards to 92, so this thing took me all the way to the beginning of the year to get this done. And who knows, by the time, if I get video uploading equipment that'll be much faster, I'll maybe consider, and we'll actually have a lot more room for space on here, I might just do a full year's worth of these at some point. But again, that's going to take a long time for me to get the equipment to use this. Not to figure out what to do here. Because remember, I'm doing this on my phone mostly, so it's taking up a lot of space to get these videos up there together on their own merits. But like I said, 9 months of work finally came to a close today. So I'm really happy to say that this is updated and ready to go, and there'll be some more time about the movie specials coming up in the not too distant future. But as we welcome you to another episode of Time About the Movies today, we are taking a look at 2 big new holiday releases, including the return of Daniel Craig as James Bond in Skyfall, and also Steven Spielberg's latest film, Lincoln. I've already wasted 4 minutes of your time. Toy boat. I've already wasted 4 minutes of your time with this intro, and a little bit more because of that. Let's get to the show. Time About the Movies. We are rocking and rolling.
Reporting for duty.
Daniel Craig's James Bond overall has had a much more intriguing backstory than I think a lot of people really would have expected from this, and that's the power of Daniel Craig as a whole. He has come into his own as James Bond in particular, and, it easily repairs the faults of Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace, it wasn't really Daniel Craig's fault. It was mostly because of the writer's strike that the film really kind of fell apart at the worst possible time. And even then, it wasn't a bad movie overall. But, Judi Dench is really good in here as M. It's her best performance in the series, which basically is kind of her last performance in the series in general because of what happens to her in this. Javier Bardem, I thought, was very good playing the villain in this. They basically brought him in there because of Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men. I mean, that's pretty obvious. I mean, it's the same reason why Christoph Waltz comes in the next film, Inspector, as Blofeld. But, he won the Oscar, of course. He was going to win another Oscar this year for Django Unchained, but the rest of the cast overall is pretty good in here. The action sequences are really well done. Like, it's amazing when The Bourne Legacy came out. I just felt really let down by what I saw from that movie. Like, they needed to watch this and take notes on how to do this. There's tension. There's no telling how it's going to end. There's no BS cop out at the end. I like the ending sequence overall, too. It's basically kind of like the James Bond equivalent of Home Alone, except if Macaulay Culkin uses guns and grenades on Marvin Harry instead of micro machines and all that. Like, if Home Alone was strictly an R-rated movie, pretty much. The tension grows. The outcome is very well done. If there's any faults I have with this, the story overall, I think it tries a little too hard to mimic some of the plot lines from stuff like The Dark Knight and The Avengers. Like, you could pinpoint areas where you could see things lifted from both movies, like the way Javier Bardem's character sitting in his prison cell, like Loki does in The Avengers, to the terroristic ways the bad guys, what he does a lot, and how the Joker commits the crimes he did in The Dark Knight. There's a lot of elements taken from those movies in particular, and you would expect these to kind of stand out on their own because of that. I will say also the pacing is a little bit off too. It never gets to the point where it ruins the film for me, but it does run a little too long at 2 hours and 23 minutes long. I mean, it feels way too long of a James Bond movie. I mean, granted, Casino Royale was just as long, but I think they did a better job of a better story overall and better pacing overall. And this, it does stretch its welcome a little bit, but never to the point where I really hated the film. I would honestly say this is my second favorite James Bond movie that I've seen. I mean, it's a movie that really is one of the best ones in the series, no question about it. I mean, it's everything you want to see in a James Bond movie, and then some. It's everything you can ask for, and it was such a success that Sam Mendes came back to do the next film, and unfortunately that one didn't have the same impact as this film did, but This also has one of the great Bond theme songs of all time. You cannot think of great Bond theme songs and not think of Adele's Skyfall, you know. Look at the skyfall, let it crumble. I can't do the whole thing because of copyright concerns, but yeah, it's one of the great songs in the Bond movies in general. That and also the Sam Smith song for Spectre, which, to be perfectly honest, is probably the best thing about that movie per se. But yeah, overall, terrific film. Really, really enjoyed the hell out of it. Skyfall, one of the best James Bond movies of all time, no question about it. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to the other big new release this weekend, Steven Spielberg's latest film, and that is Daniel Day-Lewis as Abraham Lincoln.
Lincoln, rated PG-13. In select theaters November 9th, everywhere November 16th.
So Lincoln tells the story of the final 4 months of Abraham Lincoln's life, focusing on the president's efforts in January of 1865 to have the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution passed by the United States House of Representatives. And there was a lot of people that were really hating on the movie when this came out because, you know, not just the critics, but the general film goers. A lot of them thought the movie was lame and too Oscar baity, and as someone who really does complain a lot about too many Oscar bait films out there, I'll say this. This is definitely one of the lesser Oscar bait films, but in a good way. There are moments that go overboard on the please give us an Oscar, but really, I think the movie works great on its own merits. Daniel Day-Lewis is giving a phenomenal performance as Abraham Lincoln, and it helps that he has an incredible cast to work around here. Sally Field, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Gloria Rubin, James Spader, Adam Driver, David Oyelowo, Jared Harris, David Strathairn, Bruce McGill, Lee Pace, Tommy Lee Jones. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones, as great as he is in the movie, the funniest thing about this whole Oscar cycle that he was going through is that for some reason, he kept looking miserable, and no matter where he went. Like, that was the big joke all around the award show circuit around that time, was that every time they cut to Tommy Lee Jones, especially at the Golden Globe Awards, he had this look on his face, like he just did not want to be there. He was just looking like, oh, please, God, get me the fuck out of here. Like, even during comedy bits. Like, I know there's one with Will Ferrell and Kristen Wiig during the Golden Globes where, you know, they're doing their bit, and they cut to Tommy Lee Jones, and he's just looking at him just like, kill me right now. In fact, when the Academy Awards happens, host Seth MacFarlane, one of his early jokes early on was, you know, our goal tonight is one of our goals tonight is we're going to get Tommy Lee Jones to actually crack a smile for once. And surprisingly, that actually did make him laugh. Like, I actually thought that was kind of cool. Like, I thought it was funny. I mean, Tommy Lee Jones is a great actor, and he's pretty good in here, too, but I just found that all the more hilarious that he had this continued look on his face like he did not want to be there at all, but I digress. The movie looks pretty good, too. It does capture the spirit and feel of the 1860s overall. You got a great musical score by John Williams. The script overall, good, not great overall, but there was a lot about this movie that I do like. I think the acting really carries the load. I can see why Daniel Day-Lewis did win an Academy Award for this, although it would have been cool if Hugh Jackman had won for Les Miserables, even though he was considered the frontrunner for many, many months, and then a certain movie called Movie 43 came out where he had balls on his chin, and that completely dampened his Oscar chances. But yeah, he should have won that, but Daniel Day-Lewis did a good enough job to receive this award. I think he more than well deserved it for this. He really does carry the role of Abraham Lincoln here very, very well. A guy that really does not do as many films as he usually does, but when he does, he always knocks it out of the park, man. I mean, this is a guy that knows how to pick his scripts and knows that he can take as many breaks as he wants to. If he finds something good that he'll go with, he'll more than take the opportunity to do it. Yeah, the visuals are great. The story is the biggest thing. The scripting overall could have been a lot better, but overall, this is a really good movie. I'm not going to say it's one of Spielberg's best films as a director overall, but it is definitely one that I think is one of the better Oscar bait films out there. No question about it. I think it's a ton of fun. It's a really good film. I can't recommend it enough. Lincoln, definitely worth a watch. Easily.
I'm in danger. I need your help. Walter, I think Renez made an immortal child. Who will join you?
We will stand with you.
Pax will fight. I've never been afraid of vampires.
I'll never let anybody hurt you.
Breaking Dawn Part 2. Rated PG-13. November 16th. Tickets available now.
Yeah, if you've never seen these movies and you're just looking at that and saying, wow, that's pretty cool. I mean, this series actually might find some life to it. Prepare yourself for how that's going to turn out, because they pull the biggest rug from you with that scene in particular towards the end. But welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up November 16th, 2012. And of course, we're starting off with the Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn, Part 2. The final Twilight Saga begins with Bella, Kristen Stewart, now a vampire, learning to use her abilities, and happy to see that her daughter, Renesmee, is flourishing. But when someone sees Renesmee do something that makes make them think she is turned, this person goes to the Volturi because it's a violation to turn a child. And the penalty is death for both whom turn the child into a vampire and the child, because they deem the turned child too dangerous. Alice gets a vision of the Volturi coming after them, so the Cullens try to convince them, but the Renesmee is not a threat. So they ask friends and family to come stand with them, but when someone who has it in with the Volturi shows up and tells them that they should be ready for a fight, and they get ready. That's literally how it says on IMDb, so that's not me. That's just IMDb in general with that plot synopsis there. But yeah, after being bored to tears with Breaking Dawn Part 1, it's at least good to know that this one is nowhere near as bad as Part 1. It's still not the best of the Twilight movies either. I mean, Eclipse, I think, is still the one film in the series that I'll give them credit. They actually tried, and they succeeded for the most part. There are still a lot of flaws with it, but I will honestly admit there was actually some enjoyment watching this movie for a good majority of this film. I actually didn't think it was that bad. I thought we actually did a good job of getting invested in the story going along, and I was intrigued to see how it was going to turn out. I mean, yeah, the fight scene you see in the trailer, they look badass. They look pretty incredible. But then they drop the biggest ball on you at the tail end. And after this amazing looking action sequence where you see all the characters going around beating the crap out of each other, it's violent, it's fun to watch. The action sequences as a whole are pretty badass. You think you're going to see something incredible and amazing. You have the what do you call it, the ground they're standing on completely breaking apart like it's an earthquake. It looks like the coolest, most badass thing ever, and then you find out it's all a vision, and none of the action scenes ever happen as the Volturi decide not to fight. So in a way, this is one of the most pointless fucking endings I have ever seen in my entire life. Like, what was even the message or the point at the end of this movie? You know, fighting isn't always the answer. That lame-ass message that's been done to death before so many times, especially in something like Pokemon, the first movie, where the entire focus of Pokemon is to have these monsters fighting. I mean, way to be extremely hypocritical. They took the one aspect where the series was starting to get good, and they just pulled the friggin' rug out of you. It ruins an overall movie that should have been so amazing that but they went the lame way out. They didn't want to piss off the Twilight fans. Ooh, you know, spare us the badassness of this. But no, they went for the lamest, most cheesiest way to end a franchise possible. And it's just like, when that happened, I was just like, God, are you kidding me? Like, yeah, it's that bad. It is that absolutely frustratingly bad. It's that, you get the idea. It's a bad way to end a movie. But, I will give it this. For about 2/3 of the movie, there was actually something about it that I was enjoying about it. I mean, granted, it's no Eclipse, but it's better than what we've had in most of these other movies. There was at least something where you were invested in the adventure. You were invested in what was going on. And for the most part of this movie, it succeeds. This franchise is not for me by any means necessary, but I did at least get some quality out of this film. They were at least trying to appease people that weren't just the Twilight fans, except for the way it ended. But other than that, I thought they did a pretty good job of it for the most part there. Not a great movie, not a bad movie, just better than it should have been. Especially after Breaking Dawn Part 1. Yeah, I'll take this any day of the week, but yeah, fuck that ending, man. Just fuck that ending. I mean, my God. You know, we need a palate cleanser here, people. So why don't we go ahead and move away from a movie that was okay, except for the ending, and get to one of my favorite movies of all time, which I've talked about in length before, but I'll briefly touch it up here again. Silver Linings Playbook.
What are you going to do with yourself?
Getting shrimp, getting really fit for Nikki.
Patrick, she left. You've never met anyone
It was so bad. What's this I hear about you just getting out? The loony bin!
like that. She's never met anyone.
Hey, Tiffany.
Pat,
You look nice.
Thank you.
I'm not flirting with you.
I didn't think you were.
Like Tiffany.
Look, I think you're really pretty. I'm married, okay?
Oh my.
No, that's confusing. He's dead. Wait, what's happening?
From David O. Russell, director of The Fighter.
Hey, what the hell?
I just want us to be friends.
So is this the girl you wrote about? She's fine.
She is my friend with an F.
A capital F.
For friend.
Are you taking the proper dosage of your medication? Taking a little bit too many or something? Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, Robert De Niro, and Chris Tucker.
Let me tell you, when life reaches out at a moment like this, it's a sin if you don't reach back.
In the movie Entertainment Weekly calls the best movie I've seen this year.
Wait, what's this?
Well, I thought you were doing
Oh, I
that.
thought you were doing it.
Silver Linings Playbook. Rated R.
So in Silver Linings Playbook, you have Bradley Cooper, who is coming out of a mental institution stay, and he's a former teacher who moves back in with his parents, played by Robert De Niro and Jackie Weaver. They're trying to reconcile with his ex-wife, but things get more challenging when Pat meets Tiffany, played by Jennifer Lawrence, a mysterious girl with problems of her own. And I saw this movie after I had done my best of the year list for 2012, because Argo was at the top of my, I think it's Argo and Haywire were both at the top of my list when I did my original list. So this is one of those movies I had to see after the movie had been out in theaters for a couple months. It was getting a wide release for awards consideration, and the worst part about doing your top 10 list when the year's coming to an end is that you miss out on so many of these Oscar contenders, because every once in a while you'll get a really great movie out of it, and you'll immediately regret the decision to not put it in there. That happened last year with Anora, which I would have replaced Late Night with the Devil, which I still really enjoyed that movie, but I would have replaced that with Anora, because I saw that at the end after the year had ended. But this is definitely one of those movies where I really, really found myself enjoying the hell out of this movie. This is one of the best romantic comedies I have ever seen in my entire life. This is a romantic comedy that doesn't play by the books. It doesn't play down to the lowest common denominator. It doesn't resort to pathetic attempts to get a laugh out of you. It's a genuine, real-life romantic comedy that adds elements of drama to it, and it's played in such a unique and well-done fashion. I mean, this is a tour de force by David O. Russell and everybody involved in here. Bradley Cooper is great. Robert De Niro playing his father, who's also an Eagles fanatic, and he uses them as the basis of trying to get Bradley Cooper's life together. And I feel like a lot of people can be in that guy's situation. I mean, I feel like that with the Steelers sometimes. Like every move that they make, every move that I make in my life is like. It's weird, because it's like everything that happens in life has to have something involved with the Steelers with it. That's kind of how I feel about the whole thing in general. But, Jackie Weaver's great in here. Chris Tucker, it's good to see Chris Tucker back in a role that actually really does show his true potential as an actor. In fact, I think this might actually be the first time I've ever seen him in a more serious role before. I mean, we know him from stuff like Friday and Rush Hour and The Fifth Element, where he's like the wacky guy, in The Fifth Element he's doing the bzz, bzz, like that crazy thing, that crazy motif of his, but this is probably the most restrained performance I've ever seen him, and this might actually be the first time I've ever seen him in a serious role. I'd have to double check on that, but let's be honest, the real highlight of this movie, and the reason why I fell in love with this woman right from the get-go, Jennifer Lawrence. I mean, this is a movie where she is incredible. She looks good. She looks really good, and she's not really, like, dolled up or anything. I mean, she's not like Paula Patton in Ghost Protocol. She looks like a beautiful, average-looking woman, like a woman you would see in real life. And I knew she was a good actress when I saw her in The Hunger Games earlier in the year, but here's a movie where you really see the true potential of this actress from just being, and she really does shine in this movie and moves from just being a good actress to becoming a great one. And in this one, she really has amazing chemistry with Bradley Cooper. It's one of the best chemistries you will ever see in a romantic comedy, and it really is the best thing about the movie. She really is the one character in this movie that you really get behind more than Bradley Cooper. I mean, it feels authentic, it feels real. It's no wonder she nailed the Best Actress Oscar. I mean, I really couldn't have seen anybody else topping what she did here. She knocked it out of the park. She's the one thing that I always take away from this movie as great. I mean, this whole movie is great overall. This is one of the best romantic comedies I've ever seen. Great heart, great performances, great actors all across the board. It never feels like it's going for the typical romantic comedy cliches. It is a legitimately great film. One of the great films I've ever seen in my entire life. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I love the hell out of it. If you really need me to delve into it more, there's the link to the video in the corner, so go check that out. But Silver Linings Playbook, masterpiece. Masterpiece of a film. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here. Keira Knightley starring as Anna Karenina.
It's the greatest love story ever written.
Always happened. Not something, everything.
Critics are raving. Keira Knightley is the Anna Karenina for our times. She's brilliant.
Leave my life.
In a go-for-broke performance that will likely land her in the Best Actress race again. From the director of Atonement comes the best love story seen on film in years. Keira Knightley. Anna Karenina, rated R.
This is, of course, based off of Leo Tolstoy's classic story where you depict the tragedy of Russian aristocrat and socialite Anna Karenina, played by Keira Knightley, who is the wife of senior statesman Alexei Karenin, and her affair with the affluent cavalry officer Count Vronsky, who's played by Jude Law. No, it's Aaron Taylor Johnson, excuse me, not Jude Law. Jude Law is actually Alexia, but this is Keira Knightley's third collaboration with Joe Wright, and they've worked pretty well together since. Pride and Prejudice was really good. Atonement was really good. This one, not quite as good. I mean, it's definitely better than Wright's last movie, Hannah, overall, but this still isn't that great of a movie. It's a beautiful-looking film, but it's your typical style over substance movie. And, you know, this film doesn't really feel like... The biggest problem with the movie in general is a lot of problems with a lot of adaptations of books like this. This feels like it should be more set for the theater stage than actual film production. There's nothing really about this film that screams out film production here. Like, you could be watching this on Broadway and you just don't have the audience clapping whenever whenever the scene comes to an end and all that. That's what it feels like with this movie in particular. And I guess to the film's credit, the casting overall is pretty solid. You have a strong cast that includes the aforementioned Keira Knightley, Jude Law, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Kelly MacDonald, Matthew McFadden, Domhnall Gleeson, Ruth Wilson, Alicia Vikander, Olivia Williams, Emily Watson. So there is a lot of good talent in the film. The film clearly is trying. They're trying to do the same magic that they had with Pride and Prejudice and Atonement, but the differences between those two movies and this is that Pride and Prejudice and Atonement were at least trying to do things that were different compared to the source material they were working with here. It feels like they're trying way too hard to be something unique and different and not really coming together on the right idea of how this should have turned out. And like I said, the performances overall are good, but it's never enough for me to say that this is a movie you have to see. I mean, this is definitely one of the lesser films from Joe Wright, and Joe Wright's made a lot of good stuff, but keep in mind, this was around the time he was making stuff like Hannah, and then his next film was even worse with Pan, and then The Woman in the Window. So yeah, this was that strong start to his career kind of starting to fade off, starting with this film in particular. But like I said, it's not a bad movie. It's just not an engaging film at all. And the performances, as good as the performances are in this movie, and the way the film looks, it's really not enough to carry the film to another upper echelon of greatness compared to what his works with Atonement and Pride and Prejudice were. But yeah, overall, I wasn't impressed by it. I was kind of let down by it per se. Not a bad movie, but certainly a film you expect a lot more from, considering what these two had done before, Joe Knight and Keira Knightley. But it just wasn't in there for this film, unfortunately. So that's a hard skip on a, not even a hard skip, but like a, I wouldn't even say it's a skip. For a one-time watch, I would say it's fine, but you're never going to want to watch this again after the first time around, so take that for what you will with Anna Karenina.
Animation invites you to discover the secret of the greatest legends on Earth.
Santa Claus. The Easter Bunny? The Tooth Fairy. Surprise! Sandman. You know each other? He's still awake.
Knock him out.
Huh?
With the dream sand.
It's time for fear to rule the world. Children are in danger. We need help. Bring me Jack Frost.
Jack Frost? There he is. Jack Frost.
Santa, wow. I hope the Yetis treated you well.
Yeah. I love being shoved in a sack and tossed through a magic portal. Oh, good. That was my idea. Everyone to the sleigh. There's no way I'm climbing into some rickety old... Okay, one ride, but that's it. Yeah! I hope you like the loop-de-loops. I do like carrots. Here we go!
By me, you have something very special inside. I feel it in my belly. My
say we pull out all the stops. The Easter kangaroo's right.
The what? On the body.
Let's go! Sandy? Sandy? Wake up! This is going to be epic! DreamWorks Rise of the Guardians. Music! No music! Rated PG.
Now, I know the first thing you're thinking to yourself. Where's the Owls of Ga'Hoole? Isn't this supposed to be a sequel to Legend of the Guardians? No, it's not. Sadly, there is no sequel to Legends of the Guardians, and I do mean sadly because that movie's fucking awesome. This one's pretty good, too. Welcome to Time About the Movies, and today we are taking a look at the 4 films that make up Thanksgiving weekend, November 21st, 2012, November 23rd, if you want to be specific on the actual Friday of the date, but you get the idea. Our first film is Rise of the Guardians. It tells the story of the Guardians, north of Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, Bunny Mund of the Easter Bunny, and the Sandman, who enlist Jack Frost to stop Pitch from engulfing the world in darkness. The film features the voices of Chris Pine as Jack Frost, Alec Baldwin as Santa Claus, Hugh Jackman as the Easter Bunny, Isla Fisher as the Tooth Fairy, and Jude Law as Pitch. Whenever people talk about this movie, it's one of those films where, it's a movie that most people say is the holiday equivalent of the Avengers. You got all the big holiday icons coming together in this one big adventure, and they seem to be right on that, because, yeah, this is pretty much the holiday equivalent of the Avengers, and it's a really awesome movie, too. I mean, I was talking about how the year kind of started off kind of overall not as good for animated films, but surely as the second half of the year has come along, we've had some real winners here. Hotel Transylvania, Paranorman, Frankenweenie, Wreck-It Ralph, and now we have this film. And yeah, this film, nearly everything about this film works incredibly well. There's a lot of imagination and creativity in it all across the board. The characters, the designs, the settings, the visual effects they put in here, the overall fun factor in here. Watching this on a big screen was so fascinating to watch. You see all this effort that was being put on the screen. Excuse me. And it definitely shows on there. The voice cast overall is really good. Probably my 2 favorite characters in this were Alec Baldwin as Santa Claus and Chris Pine as Jack Frost. Chris Pine giving a great performance as Jack Frost, but Baldwin alone is so great as Santa Claus. He's really doing something very different than we're used to hearing from it. You can still hear it's his voice, but it's a more distinctive, different kind of Santa Claus than we're used to seeing, with a great Russian accent to him. I mean, not to say that everybody else in the cast is bad here. Everybody in here is perfectly fine in their roles. Baldwin and Pine, I thought, overall, were the best altogether. If there was one person in here I thought was a little, not really all that strong, I would say Jude Law as the villain here isn't really all that great in here. If I may paraphrase a little bit of Randy Jackson in here, his villainous role is a little pitchy. I apologize for that, but what other opportunity am I going to do with a character named Pitch, honestly? But I mean, the story overall is very good. It has a lot of heart to it. I love the way, while the I'll talk about, the pre-climax overall does take a lot from other movies in general, but it works very well. I do like the backstory they give to Jack Frost. I mean, he's basically given these powers because he was trying to save somebody he knows, and he falls through the ice, and essentially that's how he got his powers and all that. And if there's any major flaw I have with the movie, it's what I said before. There is a lot of predictability in the pre-climax. A lot of what happens is stuff we've seen happen in other kids' movies. The bad guy's going to lie to the main character to be on his side. The main character's going to fall out with the rest of the good guys before he discovers his true purpose. And the main character's going to learn his true purpose and use what he's learned in the final climax. And sure enough, that's what happens in this film, in this moment before the climax, which we've seen it done before time and time again. And yeah, this one, they do it in here, and it's not really all that great, but the climax overall is very fun. I like the fact that it's not just the Guardians facing off the bad guys. They actually get the kids involved, and it does lead to a really good payoff at the end, and a pretty dark way for the villain to go out on here. I like the way they took that character out. I mean, I thought that was actually very well done. But yeah, this is definitely one of the best animated movies of the year, easily. And a very underrated holiday classic, honestly. Nobody really ever talks about this movie anymore. You barely see it on TV anymore. And it's hard to believe, because this is something that could have easily been playing all year long on TV. Not just at Christmas time, but, Valentine's Day as well, Easter, all these different elements here. Well, maybe not Valentine's Day, but you get the idea. Like, This is a movie that could have easily been playing on TV numerous times during the holiday season. It did for a little bit after it came out, and then it's kind of faded out of obscurity, and honestly, nobody really ever talks about it anymore. And it's a bummer, because it's a really, really good movie. That one of DreamWorks' more underrated films. I highly recommend checking this one out. If you haven't seen it, seek this one out. It's definitely one that you have to see. Rise of the Guardians is a terrific, terrific film. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, and it's another movie that has a lot to it that I actually do really like, and that is Life of Pi.
This is an astounding story of courage and endurance, unparalleled in the history of shipwrecks.
No! Go away!
This next part of the story, you may find hard to believe.
Based on the beloved bestseller, Two Unlikely Castaways.
You have to trust me.
One incredible journey home.
When I was beyond all hope, I knew he was watching.
Life of Pi. Rated PG in Real E 3D and Digital 3D.
Now, I'm not going to lie, when this was coming out, I didn't really have an interest in seeing it, even though I did like Ang Lee's other works, you know, Brokeback Mountain, and what did he do after, I can't remember what he did after Brokeback Mountain, but, I should know this, Taking Woodstock, you know, Lust, Caution, you know, certainly not up to the caliber of what he started his career off with, but, you know, they were definitely better than the Hulk film he did, but this one overall, this is a really good film, and one that I'm glad I got to finally get around to seeing, because it was definitely worth it. This is based off of a novel of the same name, where you revolve around this character named Pai Patel, played by Suraj Sharma, who is a 16-year-old Indian, and a Bengal tiger named Richard Parker, who are both stranded on a lifeboat for 227 days after a shipwreck. Of course, they have to figure out how to get along, and what follows is a movie that is not only amazing to look at, but probably one of the few movies where you're just watching two characters out in the middle of the ocean, and you're just captivated by what you're seeing here. And this is a movie that could be the typical definition of a, you know, style over substance movie, because the visuals in this are incredible, and the script overall could have easily been just a generic, bland film overall, but not this film. This is actually one of those times when it actually does work. This reminds me a lot of something like What Dreams May Come, you know, that very underrated Robin Williams movie that came out in the 1990s. People passed it aside, but that was a flop at the box office, but Patch Adams was a big hit that same year, and that movie is much, much worse. But it reminded me of that watching this movie, and it's a very captivating film because you're watching this guy essentially talking to nobody there, because the tiger is CG, and you know, they do a pretty good job of creating a relationship between these two, and you do get invested in the storyline here, and you're captivated by what's going on with the characters. This is an over 2-hour film, and it's a film that could have easily fallen into Oscar bait territory, but it doesn't do that. It actually wants to tell an intriguing story. It wants to get you invested in these characters. You want to see how this guy is going to be able to live with his tiger for as long as he does, and yeah, it's an impressive feat on so many levels. It's no wonder why Ang Lee won an Oscar for Best Director for this. I mean, he really does make it work here. He also won Best Adapted Screenplay, and also I believe it won 4 Oscars. The 2 I mentioned, and what were the other two? Oh, Best Visual Effects, yeah, I can definitely see that. And Best Original Score. Michael Dana's score overall was really good, but, you know, for Rhythm and Hues, this is an impressive feat for them. Remember, these are the guys that did stuff like the Garfield movies and the Alvin and the Chipmunks movies, and you realize when you watch this, oh, these guys actually can make good visuals for their characters. I mean, this is a terrific film. It's definitely a film that I really appreciated. I got a chance to finally check out because I was missing out on something really, really special with this film. It is a magnificent film to watch. Even if you've never read the book, it's captivating to look at. The visuals are impressive. The story is engaging. You do enjoy these characters overall, not just Suraj Sharma, but also Irfan Khan, who we see as the older version of the main character, Gerard Depardieu, Rafi Spall. Terrific actors all across the board here. This is very much up there with some of Ang Lee's best work. And he's made some good movies, but this is definitely very high up there with some of his best work overall. I can't recommend this one enough. See Life of Pi if you haven't seen it. So we've had some good movies. Now let's get to the garbage. Let's go ahead and take a look at the movie that clearly was not sitting on a shelf for several years, like Chris Hemsworth's other movie, The Cabin in the Woods. But unlike Cabin in the Woods, this one ain't that good. Red Dawn.
The United States has been invaded.
them, this is just some place. But for us, this is our home. We need to fight back. Go, 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 go! Wolverine! They mess with the wrong family. Red Dawn. Rated PG-13.
Oh, don't even try to bring in the family aspect here, like Vin Diesel's Fast and Furious thing with family is going to be a trend. Like, no. No, don't even try to do it with this movie, Chris. Just go back to being Thor already, or go back to being in much better movies that were sitting on a shelf in MGM. Because as I said, Cabin in the Woods sat on a shelf for several years. And sure enough, this was another movie that was sitting on a shelf for several years. Guess how long ago they shot this film? September 2009. It was originally supposed to come out in 2010. First of September, then they pushed it back to November, and then MGM went through a financial crisis and essentially sat on a shelf for several years before Film District eventually took it over, only a couple years after they went bankrupt as well. So this is, of course, a remake of the 1984 classic, which starred Patrick Swayze, Charlie Sheen, and Leah Thompson in it, where this time around you have a group of young people who defend their hometown from a North Korean invasion. In the original, it was Chinese. It was the Chinese army. But they basically changed the invading army and antagonist from Chinese to North Korean in order to maintain access to the Chinese box office. Though the film was still not released in Japan, so congratulations, you just wasted your time, and you lost over $65 million on this movie. This is a $65 million budgeted film, and it only brought in $50.9 million. Now, it's not really $65 million lost, but at the same time, it didn't even make that budget back here. It's still a big box office bomb. And quite frankly, you could kind of see why here. This was before Chris Evans got the role of Thor. This was before he was even in consideration for Thor. And, I mean, he just doesn't have the action chops just yet. I mean, he's great as Thor, but in here, it's clearly a teenager, a guy trying to pretend to be a teenager, but also be an action badass. And it also doesn't help that you have Josh Peck, who's a couple of years off of Drake and Josh, and is mostly known for his more comedic works rather than just being, kind of seen as an action hero in this. He just doesn't really fit that mold in here. And also Josh Hutcherson, hey, he has a big hit early in the year with the Hunger Games, so clearly we got to put this out. Yeah, again, way before he was even considered for the Hunger Games. But yeah, you got people in here, like, remember when they were trying to push Isabel Lucas to be the next big thing? Remember when they were trying to push Adrienne Padalecki as the next big thing? Remember, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's also in here too. Probably the veteran of the group here, honestly. But other than that, though, there's just nothing in here. The original Red Dawn is such a classic movie. And I mentioned it before. This should have been up there with some of the worst remakes I've seen in the last 20 years. I didn't even think about it when I was recording that earlier tonight, but yeah, it just doesn't work because the action isn't that good. Changing the whole idea of the film completely ruins the overall tone of what you were going for here. You also have bad characters, bad storytelling, and there's just no way to tell the story in a modern setting. This is one of those remakes that should have just never happened. Red Dawn worked in the 1980s because of the environment we were going through back then, because of the political climate we were going through back then. But this film, it's hard. The original Red Dawn was the first ever PG-13 rated film, and they did that specifically because this wasn't a PG rated. This wasn't a PG caliber film, but it wasn't as heavy and violent of an R-rated film, and that was around the time when Temple of Doom and Ghost and Gremlins were basically the films that kind of pushed them to put out a new rating. But this film really feels like an insult to the original film. This feels like a film that would have been PG if this exact film was made back in 1984. They wouldn't even have had to worry about making the original film because of how hammy this is. This is a terrible film. This is one of the worst movies of the year. One of the most pointless remakes ever made. Who was asking for a new Red Dawn film in 2012? Seriously, who was asking for this? So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here, which is Alfred Hitchcock, played by Anthony Hopkins in Hitchcock.
Good evening. Mr. Hitchcock, you're the most famous director in the history of film. Shouldn't you just quit while you're ahead? Oh! This is Mr. Hitchcock's next film. Are you in? Or are you out? Why this one, Hitchcock? Audiences want to be shocked. They want something different. And this is it.
Hitchcock in cinemas now.
Yeah, Anthony Hopkins is great in the movie, but the movie itself isn't that great. I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is Hitchcock, based off of the book Alfred Hitchcock and the Making of Psycho, and as that title indicates, it charts the relationship between Alfred Hitchcock and his wife Alma Revel, played by Helen Mirren, during the filming of Psycho in 1959. You also have characters played by Scarlett Johansson, Toni Collette, Danny Houston, Jessica Biel, James Darcy, Michael Wincott. This is directed by Sasha Gavassi, who also gave us Anvil, the Story of Anvil, which was a good film overall. This film's overall biggest problem is simply the fact that, I mean, it's Anthony Hopkins giving a really good performance that's really elevating the film to another echelon, but the film itself just isn't as strong because it's your typical safe and marketable biopic. It's a biopic that doesn't want to take any too big chances, and for a company like Searchlight Pictures, Fox Searchlight Pictures, who was well known for taking chances with their films, like, this is weak, man. This is a film that could have easily been released by Fox of all companies. But it also didn't help that there was a biopic that came out called The Girl, which was released a month earlier and detailed Hitchcock making The Birds and Marnie. And that film works because it's on HBO. They have wide range to do whatever the hell they want to. And it's just not that worked a whole lot better, but this one did not. This one just felt like, you know, there was an opportunity for something really interesting. It would have been cool to see what Alfred Hitchcock was thinking when he was making Psycho, because I guarantee you that's a movie that's a behind-the-scenes process that could make for an excellent film. It's just not in here with this movie, unfortunately. Despite the best efforts of everybody involved in it, it just doesn't work because it's trying way too hard to be marketable and trying also to be an Oscar contender too, and you can't really have it both ways. You gotta pick a side and just stick with it, and sadly, it can't figure out which direction it wants to go with here. It's a major letdown. Anthony Hopkins really is the best thing about the film. So is Helen Mirren, but the casting overall is really good, but they're just not given the best script to work with here. I think a better script writer that would have been given more free range to do whatever they wanted to do to make the story feel like something that should be seen on the big screen. Sadly, it's not here, so mixed opinion, but mostly you could skip Hitchcock, unfortunately.
I don't know who you are. If you guys do, critics are calling Killing Them Softly an electrifying thriller. I got the shotgun to the trunk. Brad Pitt gives an Oscar-worthy performance. Brad Pitt is Killing Them Softly. Regal.
Strumming my pain with his fingers, singing my life with his words, killing me softly with his song, killing me softly with his song. I don't know why I did that. I needed a way to open this up here because this weekend's not worthy of a regular intro of our show. Welcome to Time About the Movies. I apologize for that once again. We are taking a look at the two films of November 30th, 2012, and as I said before, it's the week after Thanksgiving, which usually means it's the dumping ground week. The week after Thanksgiving, the week between Thanksgiving and the big holiday releases coming up the week before Christmas, so 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get the best typical movies here, and this one isn't bad per se, but it's not as great as I think they were making it out to be. This is Killing Them Softly, directed by the guy who did The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, Andrew Dominic, which Brad Pitt also starred in. And in this one, he plays Jackie Coogan, a hitman who is hired to deal with the aftermath of a mafia poker game robbery that ruptured the criminal economy. We sure this doesn't have any parallels to what just happened with Terry Rozier and Chauncey Billups with the NBA FBI scandal. Probably not, but this is set during the events of the U.S. presidential election and the 2008 financial crisis, which, again, Brad Pitt was in The Big Short, too, so this is only the last time we'll start a movie with that as the backdrop of that, the financial crisis, but other than that, though, it's fine, I guess. I mean, it's definitely much shorter than Dominic's last movie that he did, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, but this one's not as good as that film is, but it's a good film. It's a good film overall. Not a bad film per se. Brad Pitt's really good in here. You got great performances by Scoot McNairy, Ben Mendelsohn, James Gandolfini, Ray Liotta, Sam Shepard, Richard Jenkins. A strong cast in here. And it's a fine movie overall. It's not an Oscar contender, really. It's just kind of a film that got good reviews early word of mouth with the Palme d'Or in the summer, and then they thought they were going to put this out there to be the next big Oscar contender for the Weinstein Company, and it just never was it, man. It was a movie that was just okay, but never anything that really screamed out, this needed to be a movie that had to be an Oscar contender. This feels like a film, they had it in their vault, so they basically said, fuck it, let's put it in let's put it out on this weekend, see what happens. And it did a decent number. It's $37 million over a $15 million budget, so not bad overall. But again, it's a movie you watch once. It's just kind of like, it's okay, but I really have no intention of never watching this again per se. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last film that we have here. This will be a quick show this week. The Collection.
To save his family,
You're the only person to see the inside of this hotel and live.
one man will re-enter
I'll help you find this guy. If he catches you, he's gonna make you wish you were dead.
the world of a psychopath. From the twisted writers of Saw,
He's picking us off one by one.
The Collection, rated R, November 30th.
This is, of course, a sequel to The Collector, which was a surprisingly good movie when it came out in 2009. So, naturally, with the same people coming on board with this one here, you expect the sequel to be as good as the original, and it's not really, unfortunately. It feels like just kind of the same thing over again, except kind of stupider, too. You follow a young woman who gets captured by the Collector, with Arkin O'Brien, played by Josh Stewart, escaping but is recruited shortly after by a group of mercenaries whose mission is to save her at the Collector's base. The biggest problem with this one is that they kind of add too much more comedic aspects to it, where it really feels unnecessary. It's kind of like what we just had recently with Tron Ares, a movie that really does not... Comedy should not be involved in the main focus of Tron Ares and a film like this. Like, the tonal shifts in this movie are just all over the place, and this one really, you feel the effects of them putting this comedy in here, and it's not straightforward comedy all across the board, but it just feels out of place for a movie like this. And the movie doesn't really elevate this to another echelon like a good horror sequel should. Like, we should expand the story on the main character of the Collector. Like, what's his backstory and all that. Like, you know, a sequel should give you the opportunity to go bigger, and this really doesn't feel like it goes bigger on any front whatsoever. They don't have any big stars in here. The biggest star in here is Christopher McDonald, Shooter McGavin, and even then, he's barely in the movie for a little bit of time here. But other than that, though, the movie's just kind of a mediocre film in general. The first one was okay. Second one, not so much. Just kind of a mediocre film in general. So, yeah, like I said, this is going to be a very, very short episode here.